This episode is sponsored by Wolf Craig Distillers, a new premium spirits brand headed up by two of the titans of the whisky industry, Richard Patterson OBE and Ian McMillan, both master blenders. Their limited edition first release, Wolf Craig 30-year-old premium blend, is now available on their website, www.wolfcraig.com. Go and check it out. Wills, you're a man who has checked this out, both the whiskey and the gin.
I've been lucky enough to try it, Rory, as well. I've been lucky enough to try it. It is very rare that you get two absolute legends of the whiskey industry come together to create a blend, and they have done so here in this 30-year-old. I'm telling you now, that's some smooth drinking right there.
And who doesn't like a couple of gin and tonics followed by a classy whiskey?
Wouldn't that be nice? We'll enjoy that at the World 15 game where Barbarians play them on the 28th of May. That'd be lovely. And they've got some serious ambassadors kicking about with the likes of Greg Laidlaw, Finn Russell, and recently announced retired Stuart Hogg. So good team over at Wolf Craig. And thanks for sponsoring the episode.
Strong stuff.
Check them out.
Thanks for the sponsorship.
It's been a week full of fun, but lined with a sharp focus on the result today for both groups.
His returning captain to international rugby, Charles Oliver.
Chance to break away, sees him off but keeps going. The chip in behind, who's going to get on the end of it? It's Carbonell. Barbarians throwing it around, this could be sensational. It's spring, it is sensational, and they might have done it now. And look at this from Penot. Niniashvili somersaulting now. On to Hastor.
For the life. For the life.
Hello and welcome back to the Barbarians show, whereby we welcome some of the most famous faces to don the most iconic jersey in club rugby. And this week is no different as we build up towards the match against the World 15 on the 28th of May. We welcome Bryan Habana, one of the most famous to ever wear the jersey. Welcome to the studio.
That's a big call. Thank you for having me. That's a very big call, Mr. Lawson. I appreciate the kind sentiments. I think it is a bit of a dream that every rugby player, when you play for your national team for the first time and you've seen the history, the legacy of the Barbarians, those that have worn the jersey before you. So I think you wait with bated breath to actually get that invitation for the first time. I had to wait 4 years before my first invite. I mean, I thought winning the World Player of the Year 2007
would have got you in there.
Would have got me in there a year earlier. But I mean, my first four was actually phenomenal. We had Jake White, World Cup winning coach, Richie McCaw, John Smith, Freddie Prier, Victor Matfield. It was
any non-suffers or?
Any non-staffs at George Gregan.
Oh, there we go.
Where George Gregan was there. Richie McCaw. I mean,
he'll do.
I mean, he counts as South African.
Was Jerry Collins in there?
Jerry Collins was in there.
Great.
It was that one where Tatofi Pulatanau sort of took Jerry out of the knees like 3 or 4 times at Wembley Stadium. It was actually, in a way, a disappointing one. We only had 3 days together. So we got in on the Sunday. We played on the Wednesday at Wembley. Like 60,000, which was brilliant. But like Jake was very pedantic in his coaching methods, and we all got in on the Sunday, having heard the annals and the history of the Barbarians, thinking, no. And then Jake was like, no, I'm going to get stuck to it. And we all looked at him like, Coach, surely like, bit of leeway, yeah? No.
Oh,
so,
really?
Yeah, try to bring a lot of the Springbok game plan and structure into that Barbarians game against Australia. And I mean, it took us like a 2-hour bus drive to get to Wembley from the Grosvenor. It was absolute nightmare. And it didn't go down well. A very sprightly James O'Connor, 18 or 19 years old, making his Australian debut at Wembley. Ended up, I mean, it was myself, Joe Rokothoko, Percy Montgomery as the back three. You had Shane Williams coming off the bench as player of the year in 2008. So myself and Shane had roomed. It was a phenomenal team, but yeah, got found wanting. And it wasn't the proper Barbarian experience. It was 3 days, quick turnaround, captain round on the Tuesday. And we actually didn't go as well in
But not long enough to bond, it sounds like.
Not really. There wasn't bonding.
You need more than 3 days to bond.
We had the Sunday night where they took us into the Red Room at the Grosvenor, which is the late Mickey Steel-Bodger's brilliant environment of scene setting.
Yeah.
But Jake was very pedantic, and like we literally just like, okay, cool, we're going to be serious, and then try to do things on the Monday night, and yeah. Tuesday's
That's interesting to hear that side, because all the other stories are so different, and that just shows that the coach doesn't get it quite right. If you don't have enough time to bond, suddenly things aren't as good, because you've obviously got some great memories. We'll get onto those.
Yeah. Yeah, but then fast forward a year later, Nick Mallett tried to do exactly the same and gets just day one. That's not working.
Sorry, mate.
Mate. So him and Drew, yeah. So we went from Jake, but I think just getting that first invite, it's incredibly special.
Do you remember how it came about?
How did it come about? So Jake had obviously been named coach, and then he sort of got to allocate, a few selections, and obviously given what happened in 07, I sort of immediately went to myself, Fareed, John, Victor, and that was pretty special. Again, having gone through that chapter with Jake, but then, and in Barbarians experience, getting to do that with, and again, you only ever hear about it, but you don't understand the coming together. I mean, we play Super Rugby and, Rugby Championship now, or Tri-Nations back then, against the All Blacks, against the Wallabies, but you never get that opportunity at any point. And then we had John Smith and Victor Matfield, who played in that North versus South game for the Tsunami in 2004. Yeah, right. And the epic stories that they brought from the likes of a George Gregan, and an absolute week of fun. Obviously for a good cause, but for a week of how rugby is actually meant to be, particularly at the amateur level. So you hear all these incredible stories, and you just dream and hope that you one day do enough to get there. We had a very young 19-year-old called Nick Costa, who had yet to make his Super Rugby debut from South Africa. 19 years old, from one of the really good rugby schools, had a great rugby history, and got absolutely mauled that first night in the red room. Shame. Actually, the boys, probably took the piss a little bit too much, because he just went into that game with eyes with saucers, just thinking what happened. But a brilliant experience. And fast forward a year later, it was pretty epic, eh?
Take us into the red room and the late great famed Mickey Steel-Bodger, because obviously he was president for 35 years, and I was privileged to sit on the committee with him for 5 of those years. Yeah. What were your experiences of meeting him for the first time? Standing at the front, the Yoda of Barbarians rugby.
Firstly, I didn't know. I still don't understand how he was able to stand for as long as he stood, given how much he was drinking as consistently as he was. And the red room was the start of the foundation. And you're like, Mickey's a couple ahead of me. Mickey's 4 or 5 ahead of me, and he's still standing. And, everyone else is sort of now starting to wobble. But absolute legend in every form. But I think the ethos that he has to welcome people, I think that for me was probably one of the most enjoyable things, because you come into an environment where there's, world-class rugby players left, right, and center, legends of the game. But Mickey almost brings it down to the real grassroots values of the game. And they always show you that try, that became
that try
incredibly well known, and it gets played at every Barbarians first meeting before you go to the red room. And just Mickey speaking about, again, as the game gets more professional, as we're potentially losing certain elements of the camaraderie, the team cohesiveness, the spirit, how the Barbarians truly brings back those ethos. And then he has that, and then he says, fuck mate, let's go to the red room.
Yeah, so he sets the scene.
And then it's okay, so that was a motivation. Now it's team bonding. And he literally leads the charge. He'll be the first one in the red room. He'll be the first one taking all the orders. And I think what he gave to the Barbarians, not in terms of his personal stuff, but in terms of the values that rugby, really lived and breathed through them, was phenomenal. I doubt we'll see another Mickey Steel-Bodger in our time. Again, going from the amateur era into this professional era, but really just keeping everyone together in a way in which only Mickey Steel-Bodger could. His eyebrows, I actually really wanted to maybe take him for an eyebrow trim that first tour.
The old boys, some of them need that.
I don't think it was
he just wanted to have plenty eyebrow to be able to raise them.
That'll be Rory soon.
Exactly. He was he was a winner though. He made it pretty clear, didn't he, to the squads and the players.
Yeah.
On day one, he wants you to have the time of your life. He wants to create memories. He wants you to reconnect with what it was to play rugby when you were a youngster. Yeah. But he also loved winning.
For the Barbarians to keep on going, there needs to be a success rate of some sort, because it doesn't help you come in for a piss up and bonding and the cool, enjoyable things, but you don't produce the results on a Saturday, because then it becomes tougher to raise funds. It becomes tougher to get sponsors. But if you then do win, like the Barbarians did against the Springboks, as world champions in 08, what they did against the All Blacks in 09, it's pretty epic. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Well, you've taken us there. 2009.
We're on our way.
That was a day that will live, I'm sure, long in the memories of you. A famous day for the Barbarians against the All Blacks, and we'll get into the game in due course. But your memories of that week, it was essentially the who's who of global rugby stars uniting in behind the Barbarians badge. What were your initial memories of coming together?
So I do want to say every Barbarians team, is the who's who of rugby coming together. And I think that's the beauty of it, that it really does give those, firstly, who have, given blood, sweat and tears to their own national jersey, that ability to then become a part of a very special band of brothers. And, I think it's really cool that there's now this for female environment of the Barbarians, which is really cool. So, you get to that point, and I'll never forget Nick Mallett, doesn't mince his words in any way or form from the outset. And he literally he pulled Victor and gets aside, and very much like Jake did in 08, he was like, we're gonna game plan structure. And we all look at it, we literally brought in a game plan the Sunday night, and we all like, let's not do that. And
that's when you need someone like Gitz to be able to speak for the boys.
That's when Gitz was like, nah, mate, nah.
Been there, done it, and then, worn the t-shirt.
On the Monday night, you always go to Scalini's. I'm not quite sure if it's still Scalini's or not. There's the magician doing his tricks. We all know about it. It's so good though. This is what.
We
all know about it.
Every time someone speaks we
all know about it. And Scalini's was actually, I think, in my opinion, where we won the game. Because obviously, again, when you together on that first night, you go to the red room, everyone's sort of finding themselves. But at Scalini's, you sort of now been sitting in this environment, and it's pretty tight, let's be honest. I mean, it's a fancy restaurant, but Jeepers Creepers, they can get a bit more space in there. I'll never forget. So we probably got about 2 hours in, dessert had been served, and WP now had been having...
Fine Scotsman.
The very fine.
He was uncapped though, right?
He was uncapped. He was uncapped member in our
lad.
squad. He was uncapped member in our squad, having just moved over up the north of the equator. And WP started letting himself loose about halfway through the dinner.
Because I don't see that in him, mate.
No, you don't. No, you don't. No. But when he gets let loose, Jeepers Creepers, and he starts getting louder and louder and louder. And about 10 minutes before the end, he sort of looks at Nick Mallett, and he's got this bottle of red. He goes, "Hey, coach, I challenge you to down." And we all those of us that know Nick, no, you don't in front of everyone put Nick Mallett on the spot. And Nick sort of in his calmness, he was like, and
Barbar's weak.
They're like, "Come, coach, come." I'm like, WP, no, stop. No, come, I want it now. So eventually, Nick's like, okay, I'll play the pot and go have a gin and tonic, whatever. So downs his WP literally downs half a bottle of red. And literally from being at the tipping point to being
just
absolutely
over it.
No, it didn't go straight. If there was a train in front of him, we would not have seen him the next day. Literally. And then everyone's now at WP. Now I was loving it. We had the incredible Joe Rokotoko. It was just Jerry Collins, but that night there really was bonding. And the reason I said the Monday night was actually what made us win it, because then we get to the Tuesday training and we are hanging.
Yeah.
So, when we had a bus, and Steve Berwick had taken us, I think, to one of his schools that we had to go do an appearance at, but it was Andy Powell.
Oh man.
He probably already let most of his salmons go on the Monday night. We were all hanging, we were dropping balls, and it was just debaucherous. Left, right, and center. It was one of the worst training sessions I've ever been involved in. Drew Mitchell, it's just all over the place. And WP now, of all of us, is hanging the worst. So he's on the bench. So we go through our team structure and doing.
And now he's gone back into his shell, of course.
Now he's gone back. But now he realizes he's not saying a word, but he now realizes what happened the night before.
Oh, poor bloke.
And he's just feeling.
The fear.
And Andy Powell drops the ball 3 or 4 times. Nick shot, "Andy, pick up your fucking hands." And Andy's like, "Mate, who's that guy?" And then Nick made WP now do fitness on his own on the Tuesday. WP, I handed to him. He tried his best. I mean, if he was doing a repeated or bleep, he would not even get amateur level status. He would have been that bad. But that Tuesday training, because of the Monday night, it actually brought us together, where we all had to solidify ourselves in terms of, okay, Nick's pretty serious about this. We're going to have a bit of an enjoyable week. Monday night, let's all back. So I think a couple of us actually ran with WP now, but he was hanging so badly. He was doing 10, 20 meter shuttles. It was shame. But the Monday night of having challenged, and then you obviously had Drew Mitchell, who then came in on the Wednesday with a bowl haircut. Bev, what's happening there? He goes, no. It's just I had a bet with someone and I lost the bet pretty late. vet or something? Like, no, she was apparently a hairdresser. I'm not quite sure her skill was.
When he came in with a bowl cut. Oh
No.
So then had to go all bald for the game on.
Is that right?
Yeah, he was pretty clean shaven for the game on the Saturday. But literally it was that Monday night where Ascolini's WP then challenged Nick Mallett. Nick Mallett took a
Did
stand.
he take it on? Did Nick Mallett take it on, or did
No,
he?
yeah, he
No,
said
he took him down a bit of a
He
gin,
did,
but
yeah,
I mean, half a gin compared to half a bottle of red.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
WP's got to be the first man ever to have done fitness, and will be the last man ever to have done
literally
fitness
on his own.
on a bar pots trip.
I've never heard of it before. So
You
for
know,
me,
I remember a couple of guys during the tour that I did just doing a couple of runs at the end to try and just sweat an extra few drops out.
not a directive, not a directive from the coach.
Yeah. We did a few, like there was a good few sauna sessions when we were there. It was like, right,
I'm not sure it's fitness
Nick White was like,
that's not the fitness.
pretty much counts as fitness. There's like health benefits, isn't there, to a sauna? I'm in the sauna, like sweating away, going, "This is it, boy." We've found the key to it. Boys are doing weights. So we had to find the Virgin Active up the road, and Nick White's like, "Man, I've got to get in there. I've got to do a bit of weight." So he's in there, and I'm just sat in the sauna with the Japanese boys.
Yeah.
They were lucky. I had to tell them to keep their pants on as well, because you know what they're like. I'm like, boys, this isn't an onsen. This is Virgin Active in Mayfair. You've got to keep your pants on.
And then, so fast forward the week, and again, I'll get back to the WP now, sorry, because the reason that fitness was actually so important, because he made a phenomenal try-saving tackle I'll never forget, in the left-hand corner. Like, he was the last line of defense. He like sprinted 30 meters. And I want to say it was against either Ben Smith or one of the world-class wingers that the All Blacks had, like WP now in the left-hand corner. Prop forward, coming on as a replacement. So I think Nick was pretty chuffed himself in the coach's box.
Yeah, I bet he was.
Then the team meeting as we handed out the jerseys on the Saturday. So Nick starts going through everyone, gets emotional about the Italians in the squad, starts crying, goes through Victor, goes through Fareed, Jock Fareed, Jamie Roberts, and then he gets to Drew. So all of a sudden, so Drew's like the last of the 15 that now gets his jersey. And he goes, "Drew, you know what? You could have actually been the best fullback in the world if you could just catch a fucking ball." So this is like the jersey presentation. And we were all like, that's like he's been crying with the Italians. And I tells Drew that, you could have been the best if you just catch a ball. And then first up and under, the first Gary Owen on the Saturday, Drew standing under that thing. And I think he probably saw about 5 balls up in the air, given what had transpired throughout the course of the week, right through the basket.
Oh, no. Poor
Confidence builder.
Confidence builder. And we just go back. Okay, sorry, Nick did say you would have been the best, Drew, if you could just catch a ball this morning. And
I'll say what I thought you'd say he was doing it, joking though, surely.
I don't think Nick doesn't really joke in
in
jersey presentations. No, like literally gave like
because Git said that he would say to Safi, "I know you're going to work hard for me," but then in the Aussies he'd be like, "Yeah, there's your shirt."
Yeah, no, and literally he said to Drew, "You'd be the best fullback in the world if you could just catch a fucking high ball."
That was the game we scored.
Yeah. So I mean that was the game. So Drew drops the first ball, and I mean I think we went behind. I want to call it 10 or 14-3 or whatever. And again, just playing the All Blacks, and they just come back from Italy. They had a 5-week tour. So there is really an opportunity. And
hadn't lost in the Northern Hemisphere for a couple of years as well.
For a couple of years. Had a clean sweep, on that Northern Hemisphere tour. And like the moment that sparked it was again Drew Mitchell. So it wasn't a high ball. Left-hand corner, All Blacks on attack, broke our line like 2 or 3 times, and loose ball. Drew picks it up. I saw his legs were struggling. As he picked that ball up, and luckily to be on his inside to score the first one. And then, I mean, talk about, we had Rocky Elson, we had Skalkberger, Bismarck Duplessis, and like everything, you can't explain it. It just clicks because you don't have a synergy bar the bonding that's happened that week. I mean, you're all world-class players, but you're all very different in your makeup.
Yeah.
So you can't say, listen, this is going to be our structure, because you assume when you play for your national team, you're good enough. But when things click, because also communication, like if you've been on the piss the whole week and you've been doing things like, you bond, but rugby doesn't happen on the piss. Rugby, unfortunately, needs to happen on the 4 lines, because you still need to communicate. Yeah. You need to be able to catch a ball. And I think that turnover that Drew then had sort of gave us the belief that, we're in this. Like it was in fairness, I don't think it was the strongest AB outfit that it ever graced. Dan Carter wasn't playing. I think
don't.
Richie was, but any All Black team, even with his potential few second stringers, is probably not. I mean, they'd literally gone on a clean sweep on Northern Hemisphere. So that Drew Mitchell sort of pick up, and again, for running 80 meters to then score a try, sort of gave us the indication that, okay, this is something on. And then not that I didn't mind scoring intercepts, but when you take an intercept off the ABs and run 40 minutes and saw Richie McCaw in the back left-hand corner, I actually had to stop. I thought I'd heard the rest whistle. Then I saw Richie still carrying on running. I was like, well, I might have to go into third or fourth gear, to complete the second.
How many gears do you have? 6, 7?
Are we on Tesla or just normal?
No, just a Bryan Habana.
No, we go in the prime. I say at least 7.
Oh,
switch.
A couple more than anyone else.
So McCaw's, you dropped it down to 3 or 4.
Yeah, I carried on 3 or 4. I had to juggle the ball first. So we literally were in it, with 20, 30 minutes to go. And then I'll never forget, Gets kicked this cross kick for Rocky Alsam, that just got bungled out like 5 meters from the line. Like, we're not going to do this. And then Gets again, I think I've been fortunate enough to play with him, at Toulon, played against him a few times. He's an absolute bastard to play against, let's be honest. But when he's on your team, like the magic he brings in an instance is incredible. How he does it being so minute and so, he's one of the hardest workers. He's one of the hardest workers on the training field, in the gym, but like what he gets done on the field, his vision, his ability to break tackles. And we had Mornay Steyn come in off the bench, and literally broke the line, and we then led, I think 25-17, which means that the ABs needed to score 2 unconverted tries to get it. And then the last, the sort of on attack and the last momentum is Steel-Bodger, famously, creating a turnover in our 22 for the All Blacks to then lose. And I'm like just so happy. You beat an All Blacks in a Barbarians jersey. It hasn't happened since the 60s, and I get the man of the match having scored.
I feel like you're glossing over the fact, so 3 tries you scored. Scored a hat-trick.
No, but again, I appreciate it. But again, none better. So it wasn't all individualistics. Drew literally, I started running. The intercept try was pretty cool, and the finish off Gets to Mornay Steyn to me. It wasn't me. It was great to score those 3. But then as Barbarians goes, I get this freaking magnum of like champagne. When you play for the Barbarians, you get man of the match. Like, that's a pretty special piece of memorabilia.
And you beat the All Blacks.
Yeah. But it's a pretty special piece of memorabilia. So get back in the change room, and the boys are going wild. They like popping the champagne, whatever. So I've now hid my bottle of man of the match champagne with my medal at my bag. Go around taking photos, and the next minute I just see Nick Mallett going for my man of the match bottle of champagne.
No.
Opening up and start spraying it all over.
What?
I'm like, Coach, no, it's 30 sprints outside, please. So literally, I didn't even get to drink my own champagne of the man of the match bottle.
You put me off Nick Mallett.
Nick Mallett, he's a good man, but he was just enjoying the moment. I think even as a coach, Nick had I think he'd stopped, coaching that year or the year prior, to then be able to do something like that as a coach with a team that was phenomenal. But and again, it just resonated with everyone. The ethos of the Barbarians, what is possible, what those values of rugby, when really put together, can mean for people. And at Twickenham, to do it in that style was pretty epic.
What did training consist of though that week? So you had that shocking one. It was just a couple of walkthroughs in Hyde Park other than
that? So we actually then, much like me today, we got in the bus and we were supposed to go to school, and we literally sat in the bus for 2 hours.
Just hanging.
From school. Yeah.
Hanging. So there was an appearance, I think, on the Thursday. So Monday was a pretty chill training. Tuesday was post Scalini's WP Nile dining wine, having to do fitness. Nick saying how shit we all are. We're not going to beat the All Blacks that week. And then Thursday we sat on the bus for 2 hours and never made it to school. So we didn't train on Thursday. We had a little walk through at Hyde Park. And then we all didn't want to go to Wembley on the Friday because from the Grosvenor to Wembley, it's a 2-hour drive. We're like, Coach, we've just sat in the bus for 2 hours yesterday. So we did a 15-minute, 15 drive. So obviously there's appearances that you do just to keep the sponsors happy. But literally,
it shows that's all you need.
But what do you put it down to? Because at the end of the day, you go, yes, you say the All Black side playing their 5th game of a Northern Hemisphere tour at the end of their season against the Barbarian side, pulled together from highly talented players, and you say, you've had a different week to any other week that you typically have, but there must be some kind of shared approach that says this is how we're going to play. Or what do you actually put it down to when it comes to making things click? Because it can't just have been chance.
I put it down to, so the bonding that happens off the field during the week, I think plays a part, because it's not like, when you play for your country, you'd go to war with that guy, because I enjoy Gets. I'm not quite sure, I'd be a body shield for him if we were going to go to war. But, you go through the bonding in the week, and the one thing about the Barbarians, the level and class of players putting that jersey on are just phenomenal.
Yeah.
To get an invite means that you've done something phenomenal as an individual, whether you play in Fiji, in South Africa, New Zealand, England, you've done something phenomenal to represent your country. And yes, there's a few uncapped players that get the opportunity, but to play at that level means you've got a skill set that is phenomenal. So it is just about finding that. And I do think it comes in around understanding people. So expectation in the game, I think, is really important, because, when you're in structure in the formal setup, you're always worried about making a mistake. And I think with the Barbarians, you actually don't care if you make a mistake. You give it as big a crack as you go, because if you're playing test match footy and you made a mistake, my job's on the line.
Yeah.
I might not get to that. If I'm doing something that the coach told me not to do, and I'm still going out of the structure, and that then potentially causes us to lose. Where with the Barbarians, I think the freedom knowing that you're going to give it your all, but if you lose, it's not going to mean your job is no longer there. And I think that's where the difference comes in, where you're just almost very augmented in the structure of international footy, that you're sometimes just too scared to go outside of yourself.
You can go and express yourself.
You can go express yourself, but you can try things that you wouldn't normally try.
Did you have any trick plays?
I think we had one that was not very good.
Oh, really?
I think we tried
Nick Mallett again. Yeah, his idea. Nick Mallett.
That might have actually been a Rocky Elson one. I think we did try a chip or something close to the line.
Because you've seen a couple reverse kicks over the head.
I wasn't in that game. But no, we had a 5-meter setup where I think I was going to be in the middle, and then we were going to pass to Fourie, was going to go to Drew, was going to, it was some stupid move. We're like, nah.
What was Jerry Collins like to play with? He was a tough man on the field.
He was scary to play against, right?
Yeah.
And his background, he was like a street cleaner in Nweli, and but one of the hardest, we never get, we run those sort of overs lines off the back of a line out, and when you come up against the Hurricanes or the All Blacks, and Fourie goes, "Oh no, we're gonna run a Jeep."
No.
Fourie, no, we're not running that, Jerry. And I'll never forget, we played against the Hurricanes.
Love how you remember the call, by the way.
Yeah,
the Jeep.
Yeah, the Jeep.
Love
so we had this Jeep at the Bulls off the back of the line out, and then 9 takes it across, and you have the wing coming in off on that unders line. And we had this absolute animal of a wing called Rian van der Berg. We call him Hoog. And he came on this chief line, and Jerry Collins, and when you're sort of sitting from afar on a pitch, and you just hear and see, and when someone folds in half.
Yeah.
And you're
and the noise.
And then it was and it was Jerry Collins. And you always have this, whenever you're playing against All Blacks, when you're playing against, don't give me a line where Jerry Collins is in. And when as a backline player, you hear Skulkberger or Victor Matfield or Bakkies Botha saying, no, I don't want, that's Jerry, no, let's go in behind.
But you had him in your team.
We had him in our team. So we had him in our team in 2008 as well, which was pretty epic. There's this classic photo of Tatafu Plotter now, just cleaning him off the side, and I think 3 or 4 times, just for the knees, and every time you think, no, Jerry's not going to get up here. Yeah. Now this Polynesian,
even after a good week.
And
he was amazing on the social as well, because I remember when he was at Ospreys, he'd often stay over during away games. We drew them a couple of years back to back in Europe when I was at Gloucester, and they had Marty Holla, Philo Tia, and then it was obviously the Mike Phillips, James Hook, Shane Williams, Lee Byrne. They were an unbelievable squad. Adam Jones.
Name dropping, stop it.
Yeah, unbelievable squad. But he'd always stay on, and he'd be in the nightclubs in Cheltenham the night after, and he'd typically do that. I think it was one of the things he loved. He was
as sociable as they come. He was as sociable as they come. And I think, again, you talk about ethos of rugby, particularly the Polynesians. They've got this humility around them, and in terms of world-class stardust, you almost didn't get better than Jerry Collins, but his humility off it, and he could drink quite a bit. You didn't want to get into battle with him because you were gonna be found wanting. But he was always the last to leave, making sure that everyone at least was getting where they needed to go. Sometimes he needed to be the last to leave because he didn't want to leave. But just his humility. And again, I think his banter was good. You always see this brute on the field, but just so enjoyable to chat to and humble in everything, you know. Like,
But you mentioned that the humility, that egos, anything like that with Barbarians, it gets parked at the door, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Before you get there on
100%.
Sunday when you arrive.
No, you can't. You can't bring an ego into that. And if you do bring an ego, I think Mickey Steel-Bodger, put it to bed very quickly before you go into the red room on the Sunday night. So, but that's the great thing about the Barbarians, that you are world class, but you're doing something that is a privilege for everyone wants that invitation. And when you get that invitation for the first time, yes, there's an envelope, but you want to be doing, because you never get to experience that, especially in the professional era these days. You never get to experience the banter, the freedom of just playing rugby without negative consequences. And I think that's really cool. And I think when the Barbarians do well and are successful, given a week out of the piss or a week, it's just having an absolute nightmare, in and around London, wherever it might be, it just does bring to show the value that it has in bring, because you don't get that anywhere else in the world. Like in any other format, you never get the opportunity to play, with a band of brothers that literally forms one. I mean, that '09 team, if we had to have a reunion right now, it'd be like we've known each other for 700 years.
Do you remember when you first became aware of the Barbarians? Obviously you mentioned 95, Francois Pienaar, Rugby World Cup in South Africa. Do you remember?
Yeah, I think one of the first games I watched was probably just before, so it was pre the 99 World Cup, but it had the likes of a Lomu, a Cullen. I was looking at this, I was like, this is starting. John Eels playing with Lomu, playing with Francois, playing with all these guys. I was like, as South African, that has never happened before, that we integrate with the rest of the world. And we've literally just come from, an apartheid era where we're integrating as a country. Now you have rugby players from around the world. So it was sort of just pre that 99 Rugby World Cup, where it was but then you saw the Jonah Lomus of the world, the Christian Cullens, doing the Joe Roffs of the world, doing things. And I was like, this is just so epically incredible. Cool. And the game was still relatively amateur, very early into the professional era, but you had superstars of the game coming together and putting performance. I think Chester Williams played with Jonah, they played against each other in the 95 Rugby World Cup final. So there was just all this engagement that you never got to witness, and now the Barbarians brought all that together, which is again priceless in every form of the word.
If there was a player you could have played with in a Barbarians jersey,
Christian
Cullen.
Wish
you had, who would it have been?
Christian Cullen.
Yeah.
I mean, Lomu, again, the first global superstar. On the other side of the wing, I would have probably be running a lot of the Chris Ashton support lines. That's got him scoring 100 tries across various competitions. But I think Christian Cullen, as a player, particularly as a fullback, I would have just, unfortunately, I've got to play with the likes of a Percy Montgomery, a Victor Matwell, Friedrich, but in the back three, I've got to play with Shane Williams, Jarrah Kathoka, but I think Christian Cullen was just, how he sliced the line was just, he didn't have a step, he had this incredible swerve.
Because jump on to 2011, your final invite to the Babas, whereby
we don't go there, man.
No, let's not go there.
Because you had Sips. You had Cipriani as a tour guide.
Myself and what a tour guide to have in London. Let's be honest. No, let's
Hold
be
on,
honest.
So what year was this?
2011.
Right, was he going out with the cheeky girls then, or Kelly Brook?
I think it was Kelly Brook that year. So you can imagine all the boys.
God.
No, you can imagine all the boys sitting at the Grosvenor, just waiting for Kelly Brook. No one saw her. Not at one point. This was unbelievable in how but no one saw her that week. No, we were all waiting. We were but he didn't reveal it in any way or form. But if you want someone to show you around London
back then as well, in his heyday,
he
might have changed a little bit now.
Yeah, he's definitely calmed down. But
a recent Barbarian, the club tour back in November, he was brilliant Barbarian on that tour.
That was, I think, as Barbarian weeks go, I think that was one of the weeks where you go, okay, now maybe we shouldn't drink this much. Maybe we shouldn't, because we got absolutely manhandled by Australia. I think it was 49. It was a bad day. I think we got booed off Twickenham that day.
No way.
Yeah. No, I think we got booed off. I think did Bakkies play that game? I think he tried to do a conversion. I think that was one of Bakkies' last games also. But yeah, that was an horrendous day. But that was my fourth invite. So
who was coach that year? Sorry.
We actually had Steve Hansen and Graham Henry.
Oh, yeah, that's right. It was that's right.
Post
Rugby World Cup win.
Post Rugby World Cup win. No.
That's right.
How good is that?
No, it was good. I mean, I think they call him Ted. Is it Ted? What do they call
Graham Henry?
Yeah, Ted. But yeah, they were very chill. I mean, Steve Hansen, an absolute brilliant bloke.
World 15 coach for
World
the
15
fixture.
coach for the fixture coming up in end of May. Yeah. So, but a really good rugby man, both of them. Graham Henry, I can't even mimic his accent and the way he speaks, but like he's got this under the breath. Like, sorry, what are you saying? Sorry, what are you saying?
But polar differences from obviously Nick Mallett we've heard about. But then in terms of the training and stuff, what was the difference?
They're like
horizontal.
No, very horizontal. Like, guys, just play it as you see. So I mean, we tried to put a few things in place, but Ted was like, nah, let's go. And we got absolutely, oh my word, that was debaucherous in everything. I think I'm grateful. I don't think it was 50 points. I think we avoided getting 50 points against us. But at Twickenham, like, literally, it was so bad. We couldn't catch a ball. Like, the boys, like, they were probably looking at about 4 or 5 hands. And that's also then the reverse side of it. So you go 0-9, you beat the ABs, and then, 2 years later, you get absolutely hammered. And again, I think Gets gone to Toulon yet? Or was that Gets' last year? I think Gets went to Toulon in 11, so that's why he played for, right. I think he still played one more game for the Wallabies before going to Toulon, and it was at Twickenham. Yeah, James O'Connor, we got quite, it was just, like, we were blown off the park. Like, we weren't even, and then you go back and okay, well, you hate when you play for your national team letting the jersey down, but like when you play for the Barbarians, and you do it in the manner in which we did it, as my last appearance, I was like, it's absolutely horrendous. It wasn't a pleasant day. Jake was Sips had a
did he ever?
hard day at the office. Yeah, he didn't go well. Shame.
You start retracing your steps and going, where were we Friday? Was it Friday? Was it Thursday? Was it?
Yeah, maybe we should not have had a dance off on the Friday night, Sips. Maybe we should have avoided that 2-hour on the dance floor type environment. No, we were horrendous. And against Mickey Steel-Bodger. Sorry, man. That was not good.
Obviously, Toulon, South Africa. Where's your Barbars shirt? And where does that rank within all the shirts that you've got? I'm guessing you've got a few special shirts that you've played in.
Got a few special shirts.
But is that up there? Is it in with the collection?
So actually one of the most coolest jersey swaps I ever did, and Ruan Pienaar absolutely hates me for this. So 08, we're playing against the Barbarians at Twickenham. It was a game where, it was under Peter de Villiers, sort of this new coaching era. All the mainstream guys, I think, had gone home. So I think Jean Smith or Johan Miller was captain for the game. And again, we were playing against Gits, Drew, Ma Nonu. Like, it was a ridiculous Barbarians team that absolutely outplayed us. I can't remember. I think I was playing against one of the Fijians on the wing. He didn't want to swap his jersey. And the guy that then walked behind him after me asking him was Jason Robinson in his last game as a rugby player for the Barbarians. He was captain. So Jason was captain, and Ruan Pienaar had been playing fullback. So I then sort of intercepted Jason asking him for a jersey swap in his last game, and Ruan Pienaar literally was swearing at me left. So it's actually not the jersey, it's the jersey swap that I made with Barbarians with Jason Robinson in his final international rugby game where he captained the Barbarians.
That's a pretty cool jersey to have.
To a famous victory over the Springboks. So Ruan, I'm sorry, love you. I've got you, but yeah, Jason Robinson's Barbarian swap.
Bad behaviour, that.
Yeah, very bad behaviour. I did down a few drinks that evening.
Malibu and pineapple for that.
No, you see the Springbok boys, they actually got me. No, they knew I hated beer. So, and even if I was one of the front panel at the court session, they knew if they had me 2 or 3 beers in, I was broken. I'd literally be throwing up.
So they got you that.
No, so literally, so it'd be 2 or 3 beers, and they'd hit me 3 minutes in a row, and I'd be dead. I'd be gone for the evening. And that was one of the nights where
we played against you boys in South Africa with Scotland, and Sean Lamont, I think I've told you the story, swapped jerseys with you, and Sean Lamont put Bryan Habana's South African jersey in the wash in the hotel, and obviously got stolen.
No doubt.
No, did it?
What? I was like, Sean, what are you doing, man? What are you doing? You hand wash that in the bloody bathtub. You don't put that in the wash in the hotel. Hey, someone's gone, honest jersey. What's that doing here? I'll have that.
Honest mistake. No. But yeah, Jason Robinson's jersey swap in 08. And again, it's a Barbarian. And I haven't washed it. I didn't dare to put it in a wash anyway in the hotel.
Well, on every show, we ask a similar level of questions. Yeah. Actually, you went just straight into full flow at the start. So normally we kick off by asking, what does the Barbarians mean to you?
I think it's the ethos of rugby that allows you to play with the freedom that you sometimes get restricted with in the professional game. And again, the freedom that, yes, all coaches are international, but the Barbarians around the ethos, the values, the camaraderie, the coming together of people that would have never ever had the opportunity to integrate and, be in a change room together, but then just do the game we love to the best of our abilities, having had a week of togetherness, which you're never ever going to get in your life. So I think based on the core values of where the grassroots element of the game is, but giving you the opportunity to just have fun with the game that sometimes you forget to have fun with.
Wilson is going to put you into Eddie Jones's shoes.
Yes.
And ask selection for this match on the 28th.
All the England players?
No, you're only allowed two. Two guys that are performing at the moment, that are still playing, currently playing. Take me out of the equation. Cool. I barely play. Forward and a back, who would you have in this fixture that you'd love to see that's performing well at the moment?
I mean, if you have Anton Dupont at 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. That's pretty, and he could probably take 6, 7, and 8.
So you'd like to see him in a
So
jersey.
I'd love to see Anton Dupont in the Barbarians jersey. I mean, the class that he has at the moment is just exceptional.
Fellow World Player of the Year.
Oh, I'd love to see Tyke Furlong.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah. The pirouette thing that he's doing as a playmaker. I mean, can you imagine him as a substitute 10 or as a second receiver? Tyke would be able to do some phenomenal things. So I think, given I would have said WP, but I mean, he made that try saving tackle in 09. But Tyke Furlong, I think would be my go-to.
Out of all the tours you've done, who was your favourite roommate and why?
Ooh. So I had two. Shame. God bless his soul. Peter Vandenberg was my roommate at the Bulls. Obviously, unfortunately, died in a car accident just over a year ago in the States. So we had some phenomenal times all over the world. And then myself and Wynand Olivier were played centre for the Bulls. We were together for quite a while with the Springboks, which was we were born in the same year. We played at under 21s together. The one roommate you don't want though is Bakkies Botha.
Oh, go on.
So I mean, just being in Bakkies' presence, you're just scared, let's be honest. Just being in his presence. I'll never forget the one interview tour, and, with the Springboks, we came to this place where if you played 50 test matches, you got a single room, and Bakkies had played 50 test matches and he got a single room, and we'd been in Cardiff, and one of the boys had brought their wives over, and I'd asked Bakkies, listen, can I swap with you? He was my room. I think it was actually Ryan Kinkowski or something. So I then swapped, Bakkies then swapped, and I was staying in Cardiff with Bakkies. I mean, Cardiff...
didn't let you sleep type thing?
No, and he's the lightest sleeper in the world.
Oh, so you don't want
to... So we went out after the game, and obviously won. Went out, this Tiger, wherever we were going. And Bakkies, he doesn't go on the piss because he knows if he does, bad things happen. He breaks people's backs. I've been the circumstance of that. But we go, so I get back, it's 2:00 in the morning, get back to the Hilton on the corner there. I'm Bakkies is the lightest sleeper. I cannot wake him up. So getting undressed in the hallway.
Yeah, as you do.
Hilton,
Shoes off.
Shoes off, literally down to my jocks.
I still do this with my missus when I get home on a late night. Do it outside the room,
do it outside the room, be as quiet as possible. So I've got my clothes in, and as you put your key card against, a silent open door. Dark as anything, literally can't see the front of your hand. So you're walking a centimeter at a time, not wanting to kick anything.
The shuffle,
to keep your socks on because you don't want to make a noise. So in my jocks, in my socks.
Oh, you'd left your pants on. Oh, that's good.
No, in my jocks.
Yeah, your jocks. At least
I wasn't naked.
I would have.
Can you imagine that Bryan Habana naked in the hallways of the Hilton?
Like that, Bakkies with the light on, you just like that.
Yeah, no, 100%. So now I guess I put my bag, and he's also the neatest person in the world.
What?
Dude, no, literally, there's nothing out of place in the room. And I don't want to say I'm a bit of a slob, but nothing is out of place. Now I'm feeling I'm folding my pants, everything, as soon as I get back from training, you're literally the neatest person in the world. So I get back there this long night, you've had a few, it's a hard effort to get it. And so to put my clothes on the couch, get as quietly as possible, and get into my bed, and I've done it. It's better than winning a man of the match award. If you go into a room and you haven't woken Bakkies Botha up, as I'm just breathing, no breathing, it just is this quiet, I was is he even here?
No.
And the next one he goes, hey, "Wat maak jy?" And I woke him up at 2:00 in the morning. And you know, I started praying, like, please don't let Bakkies tell me now, please don't let Bakkies. But literally, I was so shit scared. That he was, no, because again, now you've woken the giant. Like, you've literally woken the giant.
Angry giant.
An angry giant at 2:00 in the morning. He's a beautiful man, but yeah, Bakkies Botha, like just the neat, like he literally, so we got these Springbok, the Springbok skins, if you want to man, Bakkies at 1-1, and like he sort of puts on, like it's so neat, like perfectionistic. It's ridiculous. Like you wouldn't see it. You wouldn't think that.
Brian, you've got your finger on the pulse of world rugby, the changing landscape of world rugby all the time. Where does the Babas sit for you in the world game?
Baba sits as something, in my opinion, that should never disappear. I think there's obviously, in this professional era of how things get done, I think fitting into what is a already saturated and complicated season is going to be pretty tough. You know, being able to do it in June or July or May or June and then again in November, I think it's pretty special. But something that, in my opinion, very much like the Lions, needs to stay there for as long as possible, just to keep some of those core values that make our game the beautiful game that it is, and taking it back to the grassroots environment. So long may it continue. Long may the legacy at least let people want to continually desire to play for the Barbars. But, you know, with that comes a lot of responsibility to win. But the ethos of the game, you know, at full fold in the Barbarians jersey is one of the best sights you'll ever see, you know, as a non-rugby fan, but even as a rugby fan.
Oh, good.
Love it. Ryan, thanks for your time. Brian, World Cup winner, World Player of the Year.
Time to get a shower now. So, yeah. Thanks for the...
And Barbarian. Thanks a lot for your time.
Cheers, gents.
Cheers, Brian.
It's been a week full of fun, but lined with a sharp focus on the result today for both groups. His returning captain to international rugby, Charles Oliver. Chance to break away, sees him off but keeps going. The chip in behind, who's going to get on the end of it? It's Carbonell. Barbarians throwing it around, this could be sensational. It's spring, it is sensational, and they might have done it now. And look at this from Penot. Niniashvili somersaulting now. On to Hastor.
Babas for the life. For the life.